Members of council?
Members of council, ready to be.
Good evening, members of council, ladies and gentlemen. I see that we have quorum, and I call this regular meeting of the Town of Pelham Council for Monday, January 11th, 2016, to order. Before we begin by singing the national anthem, I would ask that we take a moment of silence to remember a couple of individuals. We received sad news over the weekend of the passing of Claire Braun, Christina and Dan's son. Christina works here at the town. Daughter, Claire. And we'd like to have a moment of silence for Claire and for Christina and Dan. And also we received notice today that Stephanie Stowe, who's the former CEO of the Pelham Public Library, passed away over the weekend as well. And I would ask members of council and all present to take a moment of silence for Claire and her parents, Christina and Dan, and for Stephanie. Thank you. Now we will begin the meeting with the singing of the national anthem. I would ask all to rise, and I would ask the clerk to lead us in the national anthem, please.
Oh,
Canada, our home and native land, true patriot love, in all thy sons command. With glowing hearts we see thee rise, the true north strong and free. From far and wide, O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. God keep our land, glorious and free. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. O Canada, we stand on guard for thee. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you all. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved that the agenda for the January 11th, 2016 regular meeting of council be adopted as circulated. Are there any changes to the agenda? Call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next, we have disclosure of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Do any members have any conflicts of interest that they need to disclose at this time? Can that be noted in the minutes that there are no conflicts of interest? Thank you. Hearing of presentations and delegations, regional report. None of those, there are no presentations or delegations, and Regional Councillor Beatty is not present. We do have Regional Council this Thursday, so we can look forward to him attending our next council meeting next week. Now we move to adoption of minutes of council. It has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. Be it resolved the following minutes be adopted as printed, circulated, and read. Minutes of the regular meeting of council of December 7th, 2015, and of the special meeting of council, December 7th, 2015, and also the minutes of the special meeting of council of January 4th, 2016. Are there any errors or omissions to those minutes? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Next, we move to consent agenda items to be considered in block. Are there any items that members of council would like to lift for separate consideration? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to lift item 10.5.7, the resolution from the City of Kingston, please.
Thank you very much. We'll lift that. Any other members of council would like to lift any of the other items? Thank you. There being none, it has been moved by Councillor Durley, second by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the following consent agenda items be received and the recommendations contained therein be approved as applicable. 1. Recommendations arising from the Committee of the Whole meeting of and the Special Committee of the Whole. Be it resolved that the recommendations arising from the Committee of the Whole 27, 2015, the regular meeting of Committee of the Whole, and Committee of the Whole 01, 2016, Special Committee of the Whole, January 4th, 2016, be received and approved. We have an item of action correspondence of a routine nature, and that is a letter from John and Cheryl Bushka regarding traffic lights. Be it resolved, the council receives the issue summary sheet letter from Mr. and Mrs. Bushka requesting the installation of traffic lights at the intersection of Pelham, Pancake Lane, and John Street, and that it be referred to staff to be included in 2016 budget deliberations. Next, we have information correspondence of a routine nature. And we have 11 of them in this case. Information correspondence items. First, one regarding graduation from AMCTO's Executive Diploma Program in Municipal Management, and that goes to Ryan Cook. Congratulations, Mr. Cook, and thank you. We have a request from the Pelham Seniors Advisory Committee to advocate for affordable senior housing. Third is we have amendments, information on amendments to the Niagara Region Wind Farm project. The fourth, a thank you from Cindy Fishburne. Council will recall that she was here at our last meeting and she sent a thank you note. The fifth, a thank you note from Maxine Gaylor, former chair of the board of the Pelham Public Library. Next, we have a notice of poll from the Ontario Good Roads Association Board of Directors. The eighth item, because the seventh item has been lifted, is the City of Port Colborne Resolution renewing consultation on the Police Services Act. The ninth, resolution from the Township of Oro-Medonte regarding the MFIFA fees, which are the Freedom of Information fees. The 10th, information on the Agricultural Drainage Infrastructure Program from the Ontario Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs. The 11th, the T. Roy Adams, Humanitarian of the Year Award nomination kit. And the 12th and final is the letter regarding the 2015 Rural Roadmap, the Path Forward for Ontario. And finally, we have some committee minutes for information. Both are from the Community Beautification Committee, minutes of their October and August 2015 meetings. Members of council have any items they'd like to discuss on those items? Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Item 10.5.10 from the Drainage Infrastructure Program. It notes that there are some grants available. Do we qualify? And if so, have we made application? Because the first deadline is the end of January, I believe, and there's some monies available. And I think this is an ongoing thing. And if we do qualify, we should get our application in. I'm just asking if that's the case.
Who's going to answer that? Madam Director?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, yes, we have made our applications. They went in at the first of this year.
Perfect. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. Any others to that item? Any others to any other items? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through you, I'd like to address a question to Madam Clerk regarding the resolution that was put forward by the Township of Oro-Medonte regarding the freedom of information. In there, they make representations that their costs are far out of scale from what is allowed within the Act. I wondered if we're finding the same circumstance and if you had any thoughts on that particular issue.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, yes, the fees or the costs associated with processing a Freedom of Information request certainly do far outweigh what we are permitted under the Act to be reimbursed for. We can charge $7.50 per quarter hour for staff research time, but that doesn't come anywhere near to what it actually costs for us to pull together information. The
Thank
fees
you.
have remained unchanged for decades.
Just
Councillor?
as a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, I wonder if the clerk might be aware that the province is examining this legislation or has plans to examine the legislation in the near future with respect to fees? Or is this something that we should be supporting and endorsing?
Madam Clerk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm not aware of any review on the fees. There has recently been a change to the Municipal Freedom of Information Act, more so in terms of ensuring that our records management system is in place so that all documents that are requested are in the custody of the municipality, and we will provide them and for the safekeeping of the documents as well. But I'm not aware of any review of the fees by the province.
Thank you. Councillor?
I probably should have pulled this then, Mr. Mayor, because if that's the case, perhaps we should be supporting and endorsing this particular action of Oro Medonte.
Thank you, Councillor. Just a second.
You could make an amendment to the motion that's on the floor now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Councillor, so it would have been in order to lift it for separate consideration. The clerk has advised that you can make an amendment to the motion that's on the floor, that we endorse and support, which I'm presuming what you wanted to do, endorse and support this particular resolution from, where is it here?
Or Medonte.
Oro Medonte. Would you like to make that amendment, Councillor?
I'd like to make that amendment if my colleagues would agree to that.
Okay, thank you. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Durley? Any further discussion to that point? So now just on the amendment, I'm going to call for the vote. All those in favor of the amendment? Any opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. So the main motion for consent is amended. Are there any other items that council would like to discuss on the consent agenda? There being none, I call the question as amended. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried as amended. Thank you. There was one item which was lifted. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The motion made by or the resolution made on December 15th by the City of Kingston regarding basic income guarantee. There are some key points that are quite interesting in there, and the National Household Survey of 2011 showed that almost 15% of the population of Canada live in low-income circumstances. It also says, obviously, income insecurity and inequity are on the rise due to precarious job situations, and if everybody has more money, of course, they could be a boost to local economies. So the resolution that they have made is to go to, and I'll read it from here, that the City of Kingston encourage the provincial and federal governments through their respective responsible ministers, including the Ontario Minister of Health and the Ontario Deputy Minister in charge of poverty reduction, to work together to consider, investigate, and develop a basic income guarantee for all Canadians. I think that's a good idea, and I would like to make a motion to support and endorse that, and to encourage other municipalities to do that, and we should send notice of same to some people in the federal and provincial government as well.
Okay, thank you very much. Is there a seconder for Councillor Durley's motion? Councillor Ribbiak? Thank you for raising it. Any further comments to the motion before us? I would just like to add, Councillor Durley, I agree with you, you wholeheartedly. Very pleased that you lifted this. And members of the public that might be interested in this issue, the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network is hosting a meeting on Wednesday the 13th at 6:30. I'm sorry, I have it at 7:30 at the St. Catharines Public Library. So there's kind of a movement, I think, in municipalities around Ontario that are trying to promote this. This is a topic that we heard about a couple of years ago, a year and a half ago, at the Niagara Community Foundation breakfast, and Senator Siegel came and spoke to the Niagara community about it. And so the Niagara Poverty Reduction Network is hosting that public meeting about it, and I was intending to go, and that's Wednesday the 13th at 7:30 at the St. Catharines Public Library. Any other comments or questions? Are we ready for calling the question? I'll call it. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you for raising that item. Now we move to reports from members of council. We have my report. Bear with me as I flip to it here on the computer. Very pleased and privileged to provide a report of significant activity since our last council meeting. There was a grand opening of the Pho Dao Bo Vietnamese restaurant that occurred on the 8th of December. I've been there back numerous times since then, and including today. But it's certainly congratulations and best wishes to Tam Vo and family on their grand opening of the restaurant. Mr. Vo's family operates 2 other restaurants in Niagara and St. Catharines at Niagara Falls. We welcome them to Pelham. It's great to have them here in the community, so congratulations. Our last meeting was way back on the 7th of December, so we also had since that time the Santa Claus Parade in downtown Fenwick on the 12th of December. Thanks to the fabulous Fenwick Lions and other members of the Pelham Santa Claus Parade for organizing the annual parade and events in Centennial Park. Certainly wasn't as cold as previous years. It was a great year, and great to see members of council participating in that parade as well, handing out candy and other members of the community involved. Many families enjoyed the free hot food and beverages and spending time with Santa Claus. So congratulations to those organizing that event in December. On December 17th, I was pleased to join Regional Chair Caslin in the announcement of financial support of welcoming Syrian refugees to Niagara, and this is via the Mennonite Central Committee of Ontario. Council will recall, or may recall, that Regional Council pledged $25,000 of support on October 1st. Immediately following that, this council pledged $1,000, and I reiterated that pledge and donation to the effort, and that's why I wanted to participate in that event. So we are hearing that some refugees are coming to Niagara. There is a group that is organizing here in Pelham, and I've indicated that perhaps they want to present at an upcoming council meeting, just for council's information and the community's information. I was very pleased, along with councillors Durley and Papp, to attend the 17th annual Silver Stick Tournament, the opening ceremonies, which occurred last Thursday on the 7th of January. It's a great tournament. It's the alternative entry tournament. It was held this year again at the Scotiabank Convention Center in Niagara Falls. And we hope that the tournament was memorable for each of the 1,300 players on the more than 80 teams that participated in the tournament from all over North America. I would say about 1/3 of the teams are from the United States. The remaining 2/3 in and around that area are from Canada. It's a great event. Great to see them all in one room, and they do pin trading and all those things. So it was a wonderful event. Congratulations to the Silver Stick Tournament. And I was very pleased, I'm going to have to amend this because it says just Councillor Durley, he was unable to join us, but Councillor Papp and Councillor Junkin were at this, and this is for the San Jose Junior hockey team, welcoming them at Fire Station number 3. Council will recall that we approved and agreed with the members of the fire service at the North Pelham Fire Hall that they could build, and we'd approve an outdoor rink, and the San Jose Junior team, all they wanted to do coming to Canada is they want to play hockey outside. So the weather actually cooperated, and they went out there. It was raining a little bit, but they were out there playing and following the puck around the ice, and it was a great event. The Pelham Panthers Adam A team organized a potluck for them, and there was music and a fire, and it was just a wonderful, wonderful family event. So congratulations to the Pelham Panthers for that, and I had the opportunity to welcome the San Jose Junior team to Pelham, and they just loved it. That is my report. It's been moved by Councillor Kersey, second by Councillor Junkin. Be it resolved, the council receive my report of January 11th, 2016 for information. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. We have another report, and that is Councillor Durley. Councillor Durley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. On December the 15th, I had the pleasure and the privilege of attending and representing council at the Kinsman Annual Senior Christmas Dinner held at the Old Pelham Town Hall. A delicious ham dinner was served by the members of the Kinsman Club to a full house. Actually, the club reported that they had to turn folks away due to lack of seating capacity. Entertainment was provided by a group of musicians on keyboard and fiddles. The highlight of the entertainment was a solo performance by a 9-year-old fiddle player. And she was very good and very well received. It was just great to see her moving that bow around that fiddle. It was great. MC'd by Kinsman Len Doyle, who did a perfect job as MC and also was a stand-up comedian for a time. A visit from Santa was another highlight. Santa spread the joy of the season and presented some gifts to many present, those willing to sit on his lap. And actually, Santa sat on the lap of one gentleman, so there was a sort of a change there. All present were offered a poinsettia and wished a very Merry Christmas by the club. Kudos to the Kinsman Club for hosting yet another fabulous and successful event in honor of the seniors of our community. It just shows how volunteers help create and maintain Pelham as a caring, creative, and vibrant community. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much, Councillor Durley, for your report and for representing council. May I have a mover and a seconder for receipt of Councillor Durley's report? It's moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Junkin. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you again. Now we move to staff reports requiring action. It has been moved by Councillor Junkin, seconded by Councillor Kersey. Be it resolved, the council approve the attached road dedication agreements and that the mayor and clerk be authorized to sign the attached road dedication agreements on behalf of the town of Pelham. Questions or comments regarding the report? Councillor Kersey.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have a couple of questions. I wonder if someone could put in perspective where these are, where Pelham, where the various streets that we're all familiar with are in relationship to this chunk of land.
Yes, it is perhaps a little difficult to discern that. Mr. CEO, I think there's a map provided, Schedule A. I'm sorry. Ms. Weens, would you be able to assist us? CEO says you can, so.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. Yes, if you look to the reference plan that's attached to the report, Schedule A, parts 3 and 4 are going to be the connecting link for the Summerside Street or Boulevard or whatever it's going to be. And so it connects with parts 4, the terminus of part 4 connects with lands that the town owns that they acquire at Station Street. Mm-hmm. And then it connects with part 3 is the piece that connects with where it terminates in the River Realty draft plan of subdivision. So the 3 and 4 will be the completion of Street A. So that's what that is. Parts 1 and 2 are a park block and part of the relocated watercourse block that are needed so that we can get our outlet for the stormwater management. So that's important piece to pick up. And then part 5 will become a future street as well, and it will be part of a north-south connection that we need in the future, but it's kind of at the far end of the East Fonthill neighborhood.
Kind of behind the Sobeys area.
Yes.
Thank you. Councillor?
Okay, I have a couple of questions if I...
Okay, go ahead.
The second question, Part 5, I note in the agreement regarding Part 5 that they have a right to request a reconveyance of that parcel back to them. So I guess I'm wondering, why are we going through the conveyance at this point in time? Why don't we wait and see until we need to do that conveyance? Like, as opposed to having it open to ended like that.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, through you, it's a bit of a logistical reason for requesting that. It will then allow for, these are lands that are owned by Font Hill Gardens, Inc. What is kind of the horseshoe of that block is designated and set aside for residential development. And Font Hill Gardens, Inc. are wanting to sell that piece to someone who's going to develop residential dwellings and residential uses. So this will then create it as a separate parcel, facilitate the sale of that. Then part 5, when we go to build the road, because they're going to be responsible for building the road, will come back to them so they actually build and construct the road. So it's using it for a bit of logistics in order to be able to provide for the sale of that interior piece for future residential.
Okay. And
Go ahead.
one more, last
Yes, of course.
question. I note in the, one of the agreements that there was a quantum specified as 300,000 an acre of excess land. How was that 300,000 arrived at?
Who can answer that? Ms. Weems?
I'll attempt to, thank you. The $300,000 an acre is a value that we've been using in the other agreements that we had for the parkland dedication agreement. So it's a consistent value that we've used in previous agreements, so it's a carry forward of that. It's based on the raw land value for the land.
Mr. Ciano, can you just provide additional information to the
Yes.
councillor?
The reason for the $300,000 number and not 375 is what you might expect is the difference between the residential and the commercial component.
Well, that was the point that I was trying to get at. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you.
And the
Councillor
la-
Kersey,
The last question, Mr. Mayor, I promise.
second last time. Go ahead. That's fine. Don't worry about it. We're not keeping track.
Do we have any idea of the degree of excess contribution? It's this, I understand it's 6 meters, but over what quantity of land, so that we have some idea of what
You're
the
looking-
credits are being accrued to this particular developer?
So you're looking for the area of the land so that you can then calculate the credits. Is that correct?
There.
Ms. Weems, would you happen to know the area of land that we're talking about with these transfers?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, through you. There's a variety of parcels that have been are part of that in terms of the oversizing of Street A and so forth. So that actual final calculation, we're actually working our way through that right now. That will come back to you. So I can't give you a specific value of all of that because there's these lands and there's some other lands as well as part of those agreements in terms of the over-dedication on parkland within the East Fonthill development and the oversizing of Street A. So we can bring that back to you at a later date.
Thank you. I think that'd be very helpful because it's really a contingent liability on the town, and it'd be worthwhile understanding what that liability is. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Other comments, questions to the motion before us? Certainly your questions help clarify a number of items, so thank you very much, Councillor Kersey, for those questions and for Ms. Weems for answering them. If there isn't anything else, I'm going to call the question, and we will deal with this in bylaws. It's the first bylaw that we'll consider later on this evening. So I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Having trouble here. Next item has been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. Be it resolved, the council received the issue summary report for information as it pertains to application file number SP0215, Block 13, Plan 59M405, municipally known as 1145 Pelham Street, and the council direct planning staff to prepare the bylaw and site plan agreement authorizing the mayor and clerk to enter into a site plan agreement between the town of Pelham and 93776 Ontario Inc., and the council approve the bylaw and enter into site plan agreement with 93776 Ontario Inc. Questions or comments? It's like a great development for the community, and it's been talked about for a little bit. Thank you for staff's work on this, and certainly to the developer. Going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Ms. Weens, just to that, do you know whether the developer's intending to build that this year?
Mr. Mayor, through you, yes, that's certainly is my understanding, is they want to get started this spring on that.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks, Council, for your latitude. Now we have a motion moved by Councillor Kersey, seconded by Councillor Junkin. Be it resolved, the council receive the issue summary report outlining the requested fence bylaw variance 1 through 27 Buckley Terrace, and the council approve a rear fence height variance of 8 feet for residential properties with addresses 1 through 27 Buckley Terrace, as shown on attachment 1 aerial photo appended to the report. Questions or comments? I'm going to turn to you, Councillor Kersey. I think you raised this issue a few months ago.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, I'm pleased to see this happen. I think it will go some distance to try and appease some of the concerns that the neighbors have there, and couple that with the developer's intention, as I understand it, to do some plantings on his side of the fence. That'll also help to act as further buffering to the elevation issues that we have there. So I'd be fully in support of this.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Mayor.
Anyone else to the motion? There being none, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? None. Motion carried. Thank you, staff, for your work on that as well. Now we move to presentation consideration of bylaws. We have 3 at this point. It's been moved by Councillor King, seconded by Councillor Ribbiak. Be it resolved, the Council of the Town of Pelham, having given due consideration, the following bylaws do now read a first, second, and third time and do pass. The same, and that the mayor and clerk be and are hereby authorized to sign and seal the bylaws. 1, being a bylaw 3696, being a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute roadway agreements between the Corporation of the Town of Pelham and Fonthill Gardens, Inc. and Fonthill Gardens 2015, Inc. to dedicate land to the Town of Pelham for roadway purposes as outlined in the agreements attached therein, forming part of this bylaw. 2, bylaw 3697, being a bylaw to amend bylaw 3578, confirming various appointments to boards, commissions, committees of the Town of Pelham, and to appoint members to the Pelham Library Board and the Community Beautification Committee, and to remove members from the Pelham Library Board. And finally, bylaw 3698, being a bylaw to amend zoning bylaw 1136, as amended for lands located east of Pelham Street and south of Bacon Lane, 1161 Pelham Street, legally described as Part 8 and 9 on 59R15420, from Residential 1 R1 to Residential 1 with a holding provision R1H. All, how do you say that? Apollyon Inc., thank you. File number AM0515. Comments or questions with any of those bylaws? There being none, I call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you. Now we move to consideration in closed session. It's been moved by Councillor Ribbiak, seconded by Councillor King. Be it resolved, the next portion of the meeting be closed to the public in order to consider the following item under section 239 2D, labor relations or employee negotiations, 2 items. I'm going to call the question. All those in favor? Any opposed? That motion is carried. We'll now move into closed session, and this public portion of the meeting is adjourned. Thank you.